So an important part of modeling is using relevant references, either for just referring to or for actually bringing into your scene to model to. So for example, here's a couple of images if I wanted to model a woman's head. These are just from the internet, from 3DSK, I think, just as an example. But I can bring images into my scene. You can see in the front view and the side view images of this woman's face from the front and from the side, and I can use these to model to. So let's go through the process of bringing these in. So I'll just create a new scene here. I'm not going to save. Now the first thing we want to do is to set your project. Because we're using images in our scene now, Maya has to have a link to those images, and they have to be, well, they should be within your project. So if I go to File, Set Project, Project Organization Video, this is the one I want to select because it contains the workspace file. So select this and set this, and then I'm going to do a Save As, and it will go to the correct place, the Maya folder, and I'll call this Head Modeling Female, let's say. Okay, so now if I want to bring in an image to model to, it's not really in the perspective view that I want these images, although they will show up here eventually. We can hide them if we want. It's in the front and side views that we want to bring in these images. So these images should be aligned to an orthographic plane, and they should be photographed in that way. So you want straight on images. Usually if you're taking your own photos, take them with a long lens zoomed in. So we'll flatten out any distortion from the lens as much as possible. But anyway, once you get an image or a set of images, it can just be one image, it can be a number of images in different views, but whatever you need. So let's do the front view. So we're going to go to View, Image Plane, Import Image. So this is within the panel menu. Sorry, the viewport menu under View, oops, Image Plane, Import Image. And now, because I set my project, it takes me directly to my text folder. And in my text folder, I've already placed these two images. Okay, so now I can select the front face, open it up, do the same thing in the side view. And there we go. So now we can see what scale we're working at here. These are pretty tiny, so I might just grab both of these. I'm just selecting both, go into scale mode, and I can scale them up. Let's say scale them up 10 times. We'll work at that scale. So now if you look, right now both of these image planes are at the origin, which makes sense because that's the way we imported them. But we want to push them off to the side for modeling. So take my side view, I'm going to move it off to the side here, take my front view, move it back a little bit. If I turn on the grids now, you'll see that these images appear behind the grid. So that means they're behind the 0 line one way or the other. Now this front view is not centered, so I'm actually going to grab it and just drag it over so it's centered to her face, and I probably just end up modeling 1/2. Now the other important thing is to make sure that these two images line up. Now this will vary in importance depending on what you're modeling, but let's say you are modeling a face. So if you are placing vertices at the corner of the eye here, and so you can be working in the side view and placing vertex here, and then you go to the front view and you make sure it's lined up here to align things in 3D. You want to make sure that these line up in space. And so one way to do that, if you're using something like this, 2 or more images, I usually create a plane in my scene, scale it up, and then move it. So let's say I want to see if this corner of the eye is aligned with the same eye from the other side. And you can see it's close, but not quite. Here it's aligned to her eye, here it's slightly above her eye. So I might want to take this image and not scale it because they're at the same scale, and just move it up a little bit. And so those are aligned pretty well now. So now if I check the nose, it's not quite lined up. Corner of the mouth, not quite. So maybe I'll move this up a little bit again. That's a bit better. The nose is better. And see, the eyes don't line up exactly. So you want to get it as close as possible, but probably what's happening here is our head is tilted back a little bit more. But you want to get them as lined up as you possibly can. If you're doing something like a surgical tool, if you have images from the top and the side or whatever, you want to get those lined up as much as you can so you get the same information just from different views. So once we have these in our scene, you don't really want to be able to select them and move them by accident. So you can put them on a display layer. So if we select both of these images, and with the channel box open, go down to the display layer menu down here, we can click on this button and we'll create a new layer and add the selected objects. So we can use this to turn the visibility on and off. This third box here, if we click it once, it goes into template mode, which forces it into wireframe mode. But if you go click on it once more, you go into reference mode. And this means that these will appear in the scene, but they can't be selected anymore. So it's kind of like locking them, which is ultimately what we want. So we would, start modeling, from a cube shape maybe. And if we want to start changing the cube to match the shape of her face, we're not going to accidentally select these things in the background. And if you don't want to see these reference images in the front view, or pardon me, the perspective view, you can turn them off. If you turn off visibility here, it turns off visibility everywhere. But in each of these viewports, you've got another menu. We looked at view already. Panels allows you to choose what view you're looking through here, different windows. But there's also the show menu. So this is the types of objects that will appear in this viewport. And so we can go down and turn off image planes under show if we don't want to see them here. And really that's all there is to it. But image planes can be quite important. But to make sure they always reappear when you reopen this file, you have to make sure that you set the project and that the project settings are correct. And then when you open the file, Maya will be able to find your text folder and bring these images in. But this is a basic technique for lots of modeling, bringing images into Model 2.